event today. This is just awesome. Before we get going, I have cards and pens because I have 2 books here that we're going to be wrapping off. So if you could just start passing these around while we get this going. But we have 2 people in this room who actually are going to be speaking later on who have books that they're going to be wrapping off after this event. So I'll have to remember to do that. But anyway, Dan Blanchard wrote a book called The Storm, and then Rick Woods, Make Room for Clarity, and they're both wonderful people. But anyway, I'm Chip Januszewski. I would love to welcome you to this fabulous event today. It's just so cool to be asked by somebody as cool as Jeff to do this. I know that he's very close to all of our hearts. And we met through the Speakers Bureau, and there's a lot of our Speakers Bureau friends here today. And Jeff and I have a lot in alignment. I am Chip Januszewski. My brand is the Happiness and Success GPS. And I brand that around my approach to life, which is a lot like Jeff's. The Happiness and Success formula is living life with the 4 Ps. Purpose, passion, positivity, and a plan. My background is business and a whole bunch of other stuff. But it became crystal clear to me in consulting with people, asking if they have a strategic plan. Most people don't. They live in what I call the land of Sameville, S-A-M-E-V-I-L-L-E, which is choosing to let the outside world and all the negativity out there, people's opinions and so on and so forth, control your life, when in fact you can choose positivity at any point in time. Wherever you are mindset-wise is your choice, which is going to be a huge theme, I think, of what we're talking about today. So my message today, which you should be spreading to everybody, is go to that mirror and smile at yourself. It is okay to love yourself, because if you don't love yourself, and I'm not talking about being arrogant or anything like that, how can you possibly give your best self to the world? So when you're working with kids, when they're growing up and so on, or your peers or whatever, tell them to go to the mirror and smile and control them. They can't possibly stay down on themselves if they do that. I approve this message. Anyway, I want to bring up our first speaker right now, who is a friend of mine for like the last year and a half through the Speakers Bureau. And his name is Dan Blanchard. Wonderful, wonderful guy. He is an author, speaker, youth leadership expert, high school teacher, and I have to throw this in, 2-time junior Olympian wrestler. He's going to be speaking on how your past does not equal your future, and that setbacks are setups for comebacks. And he's written, how many books now? 5, 6, 7 or whatever? While juggling, I think, was it 5 children?
5 children, yes.
The gentleman, he's amazing. The only thing that he has not figured out is cloning. Give it up for Dan.
It's funny, every time somebody introduces me, I almost start looking around to see who they're talking about. And it's amazing. But I'm very happy to be here today. Me and Jack met each other back a while ago at the Hartford Springfield Speakers Network. And I noticed him right away, a lot of energy, a lot of ambition, a lot of enthusiasm. I mean, he really was like a breath of fresh air. So at some point, we had started exchanging emails and communications. And he had told me that he had written like this book, he had this manuscript. So he was like, hey Dan, would you like to check out my manuscript and tell me what you think about it? And I was like, oh, absolutely, definitely. So yeah, send it my way. Right, so he sends me his manuscript, which was really interesting because, I mean, it was right on the tail of, if anybody here is familiar with Olympic wrestling, there's a guy from New York Times bestseller, Scott Scholl, who has written a New York Times bestseller book about Dan Gable. And he had asked me to proofread the book before it became a New York Times bestseller. And then like a month later, Jeff's contacted me saying, hey, you want to proofread my book? Check out, tell me what you think about it. And I'm like, yeah, I'm thinking, what's going on here? I'm not sure what's happening here, but I'll take it. Right? So I get his book, I'm reading his book, and I see that, once again, it doesn't surprise me a bit. I'm like, this guy's an ambitious guy. I think he's written a couple books here, jammed into one. And I'm like, this is cool. It's very ambitious. And one of the things I told him, I'm like, and I hope he doesn't like throw a rock at the messenger here. But I was like, maybe we could make this into a couple of books. So I'm kind of messing with this book already. You know what I'm saying? And most people don't like it when you mess with their book. So as I'm going through it, I'm also telling him, I'm like, hey Jeff, I said, you know what's funny? I said, you have kind of like written the easiest book that there is to write. I said, You just kind of went to other people and said, tell me what you think about this, that, tell me some secrets, tell me some success principles, and I'll write it down and call it my book. And I'm like, listen, you've written like the easiest book there is to write. But the beautiful thing is, he's figured that out at such a young age. You know what I'm saying? So that just shows like he's got this wisdom beyond his years. Because he's figured that out. I mean, those are some of the best books to write. Is when you interview other people or some of the best blogs to do. You know, you just kind of like borrow other people's experience that you may not have yet because maybe you're younger than they are. So you borrow some of their expertise, you borrow some of their experience. And if you do this enough, you start to make some of it yours. You start to own some of that experience. You start to own some of that expertise, right? So then that kind of feeds right into, you know, what happened before, like, kind of like doesn't matter. You know, your past doesn't really matter. Especially when you have the wisdom of Jeff, who loves to get together with people and pick their minds. Someone who's curious. It's kind of funny, I mean, just yesterday, I teach special education, self-contained behavioral, and just yesterday a kid was making fun of the way I talk, and I asked him about it, and then he asked me something back, and then I thought, well, maybe this kid's not really making fun of the way I talk, maybe he was just curious. So I looked at him and I said, you were just curious about how I never pronounced my R's? You know, I kind of got this Boston accent. I said, you were just curious about that? And he goes, yeah, I was just curious about it. I go, that shows a sign of intellect. Very good. Very good. And Jeff's got that. He's got that eternal curiousness about him, which is a sign of intellect, a sign of intelligence. And this young man, you know, I kind of look at him, I kind of feel we're the same age, but we're not. You know, he's younger than me, and he's a young man. And so this young man's going to do a lot of good things, okay? So, eventually, as we're going through his book, and he says, you know, he tells me this book launch is coming up, and he says, hey, Dan, he goes, you want to do, you want to do like a little talk at the book launch? And I'm like, absolutely. And I love doing those things for friends. And I'm like, well, what should I talk about? And he goes, I don't know, maybe talk about like principles of the book, talk about some of the things that you talk about when you're out there writing and speaking and teaching all that stuff. Success principles, you know, your past doesn't equal your future, all that, setbacks or setups or comebacks, and you know, success principles and achieving and inspiring and motivating and all that stuff. He goes, we can talk about all that stuff. And I'm like, yeah, we could do that, sure, I could do that. And then I started thinking about it, and I said, you know what? Believe it or not, people really didn't come here to hear about Jeff's book. I said, well, yeah, of course they came to hear about Jeff's book, but they really didn't come here to hear about Jeff's book. And this is something that I've learned over the last couple of years from several of my other positions. From I was on the board in Kappa, Connecticut Office of Public Association, then I was the founder and the chairman of Northeast Kappa, then I became the president of APS, Association of Publishers of Special Sales, and I started realizing that people don't really want the book. What they want is they want what the book can do for them and the person behind the book. So people here today are not exactly here for the book, they're here for Jeff. That's what they're here for. They're here for Jeff. Because they like him, they know him, they like him, they trust him, and they want to learn more about Jeff and what makes Jeff tick and how these success principles have come out of him, how he's gathered some ownership of these success principles. So I'm thinking, okay, so if they don't want to know about the book, then they want to know about Jeff, and this is something I know about Jeff. That young man loves to drink coffee. Right? That young man loves to drink coffee. And quite a few times we have met and drank coffee. And we have drank coffee for hours. And we have talked for hours. And I know that Jeff is really good at drinking coffee. Well, not the person who witnessed him drinking coffee. I've seen his technique. And I know what's even more beautiful is that Jeff has had the insight that the people that are older than him, wiser than him, more experienced than him, those people who have those experiences and those abilities and that knowledge, he knows that they like to drink coffee too. So why not drink coffee together? And that's what Jeff does. He drinks coffee together with people that he can learn from. And he does, and he learns a ton. And when we're drinking coffee, and he does it with me, and I'm sure he does it with everybody else, when he's drinking coffee, another thing I know about this guy, besides his father's technique of drinking coffee, is that he loves to scribble on those little Dunkin' Donut napkins and create those little diagrams of the pyramid and the upside down inverted pyramid and the circles, and he does that, and it's amazing. When he comes up and he goes, "What a great idea!" And he's pumped up, and I'm sitting with this guy going, "This guy doesn't freaking slow down." You know what I'm saying? He's scribbling on these napkins. He's making me feel like I'm on fire, because he's on fire, and I'm just mimicking him. And that's what I'm doing, and we're having a great time at Dunkin' Donuts, feeling like we're solving the problems of the world. I kind of don't think they really solve the problems of the world, at least not all of them yet. But if you hang out with Jeff long enough, I think that maybe you too will get that feeling that you and Jeff are like solving the problems of the world somehow. And you're doing it on like a Dunkin' Donuts napkin. You know, it's powerful. So, all right, so one of the things that you can't help but notice when you hang out with Jeff is that he's full of passion. He's full of energy. He's full of ideas. That's what fun talk. All right, he's full of ideas, and he's a thinker. He's a thinker. He's always thinking, you know, what if this? What if that? What if this? Right, he's full of that stuff. And as I said before, and I'll stick by this forever, Jeff is a breath of fresh air. Because you guys know how it is. When we started off, we were like naively invigorated. You know, thinking that we were going to save the world, or write a book, or make a movie, or do a speech that's going to kill it and whatnot, you know what I'm saying? Or we're going to create a business, it's going to do something special, make the world better. And we're like naively invigorated. And then the struggle sets in, right? And then the years roll by. And it kind of hasn't turned out exactly like we pictured it. You know what I'm saying? We start slowing down, and if we're tough, we hang in there. I mean, we're tough. So we hang in there, we do what we got to do. We go from day to day, and we learn, and we gain experience, and we do all these things. But we're not quite shooting the vinegar all over the place like we used to. And then along comes Jeff. And you see him, and he's like spitting fire, right? He's spitting fire, and he's all over the place, and he kind of invigorates you and gets you going, right? So that's a beautiful thing about Jeff. So when you're with Jeff, that's going to rub off on you. So I say to stay around Jeff, help him out. I know that when we go to Dunkin' Donuts and talk, like we don't stop talking for the entire 2.5 hours. Remember one time I got out, we were walking out, and these couple old men were like, "Holy God, I don't think you guys took a breath." Like, "I don't think you guys took a breath." We just go, you know, and that's what it is. And like I said, the guy's always thinking, he's always borrowing expertise, he's doing a lot of great things. All right? And I'm super, super impressed with that young man, Jeff Davis. He's a good guy. All right? He's gonna do good things. And he's written himself a heck of a book. I say, get your hands on that book, pick it apart. The teacher is going to say, annotate it, make notes in the column, you know, do all those things, you know, write down your thoughts, and then get together and check and talk about it. Well, not maybe, and maybe you can contribute to his next book. So I know that young man's got many more books in him, many more books to come out, and I know that he's not going to all of a sudden start to dislike coffee. Get your hands on his book. I'm glad to call Jeff Davis my friend. Thank you.
Thanks so much, Dan. I think we're off to a pretty good start today, huh? So, next time they get together, if they want to slow it down a little bit, I might suggest decaf. But anyway, our second speaker is Chris Salem. He is an author, a leadership expert, a coach, professional speaker. He's going to be speaking on authentic leadership and how that ties into true success. He's been at our speakers meetings before too, so give it up for Chris.
It's an honor to be here. I met Jeff about 3 years ago. I was down in Norwalk, I was at a networking event, and there was somebody, I could just feel this energy across the room. Here's this young guy out there shaking hands, talking to people, and I just knew, I hadn't met him yet, that I knew we were going to make a connection. And I'm really big on being your authentic self, and being truly authentic. And when I see people, I can sense that, if they're being really true to themselves. When I met Jeff, I sensed right from that minute, this was a fellow that really was being his true self. The reason why was he was very vulnerable in terms of telling me information about himself, right? He didn't know who I was. And telling me what his ambitions are, his struggles, what he went through. I mean, normal people usually don't do that. But see, Jeff is transparent. He revealed his true self right from the get-go, and that really made a strong connection with me. As Chip had mentioned, I do a lot of talks on authentic leadership in terms of teaching leaders how to lead authentically. And how you lead authentically is, number one, you have to be self-aware and genuine. And what that means is how you are behind closed doors is how you should be also in the public, and vice versa. A lot of times we see people look one way out in the public, but act completely different behind closed doors. They're two different people. But when you're coming from the heart and you're truly authentic, people connect with that. And the right people connect with that. So coming from the heart and being truly who you are is what's going to set yourself apart from being a better leader. So one of the things as we tie back with Jeff had asked me to come in and talk about, leadership and being your authentic self, and that was my contribution to the book. So being authentic, again, is being true to who you are and be able to really look at how you can solve people's problems and challenges, being a solution. And one of the things about Jeff was I could sense that from when I first met him and getting to know him. And just like Dan said, I had many in-depth conversations. But in this case, we were at Starbucks, not at Dunkin' Donuts. But I'll tell you, I mean, Jeff just firing off these questions, boom, boom, one after another. And I just loved how he was engaging, and I would just answer. And there were some times where I would only have about a half an hour to talk. And then I would just get so caught up into the conversation, then I'd look at my watch and realize, oh my God, it's been an hour and a half. I just missed my coaching client that I had to do, and I had to text him to say, we had to make it up. But it didn't matter because engaging with this young guy is just truly an experience. And I knew from the time that I met him, he has a true gift to offer this world. He leads from the heart. He tells his experience, and he makes that connection with people, especially young adults, which is really important. And this is where you have to teach people how to be authentic. Now, there are what I call the 5 I's of authentic leadership. And I'm not talking about these I's, okay? I'm talking about the letter I. Number 1 is to have insight. So you can have the greatest vision in the world of what you want to do or where you want to take your life or your business, but without having the wisdom and the knowledge to do that, the vision means nothing. The thing about Jeff is Jeff has that insight. He has the vision, but he also has the knowledge and the wisdom to see through the problems, and even at a young age. That's what I admire about him. Young age, this guy's like in his 20s, and it's like I feel like he's already, he's been around. He's almost like 50 years old. That's how sometimes I feel like I'm talking to someone with that amount of experience. He really, truly offers a lot to this world, and I can't. This book is going to really transform a lot of lives, and I know he's got a lot in the making coming out soon. And I'd love to be a big part of it. Next with the I's is initiative, being proactive. So when you have the initiative, you're proactive in everything you do. You're not waiting for something to happen. You make things happen. You're always ahead of the curve. And that's something that Jeff cites in the book, that being proactive, look for the solutions rather than living in the effect or the problem. That's what is truly a gift when you're able to be proactive versus reactive. Another one is having the influence. You have to have influence. You have to empower people. Leaders are not here to tell people what to do or how to do it. You empower them to do it through your experience and by example. That's when people really truly listen and they connect and they end up making changes subconsciously, whether they don't consciously recognize it or not. Empowerment is really, truly effective. And that's something that I see Jeff do quite a bit. When I see him talking to audiences of young kids in high school, college, or even adults, he really, really empowers people, and that's truly important. Another one is having impact. And that again is delivering a solution that is long-term. You're solving, you want to solve a problem. And that's again something that Jeff, his goal was with this book, was to really, to get people to really look within, that the solution lies with you. Success starts and ends with you. It's a process. It's not a destination, it's a process. And that's something that Jim Rohn stressed very, very importantly. And Jeffrey kind of reminds me of him in a lot of ways, in that he sees that at such a young age. Now, all the 4 I's are very, very important, but without this final one, they're all meaningless. And there are a lot of leaders that have the 4 I's, but they lack the 5th one. And that is integrity. Integrity. And again, that is being true to yourself and true to other people. And that's again something that Jeff has. And it's amazing that this young guy gets it. I don't know where it comes from. I mean, he just at a young age gets it. And you would think that, going to college and grad school, you've been taught to do certain things, a certain way. You could, when I met Jeff, I knew, even though he was very smart, he went through all this whole process, he knew it was not him. He wasn't living authentically, but he knew he wanted to. And at this young age, this man is doing it right now. And this is the type of guy that is going to really impact a lot of people's lives, even if they're like, it could be his father's age or his mom's age. People are listening to this gentleman. And it's an honor for me to be part of his journey, to be part of this book. And I know that when people get their hands on this and start really to immerse themselves in what the message is, they're going to start seeing a lot of great changes in their lives. So I think I've talked over 5 minutes, Jeff, but again, I can't say, Ben, you're a great guy, and you've got a great message, and it's a pleasure to be here.
Very well.
All right. Talking for too long or whatever, it's really funny because the next speaker is a professional organizer. Why am I running this meeting? Our next speaker is someone I've known for several years through the networking thing, and he's got a really great thing going as an organizer. He's Rick Woods. He is an author, a speaker, and a professional organizer, time management expert, speaking on the importance of time management as it ties into seeing the big picture of your life and defining your own version of success and climbing the ladder. Give it up for Rick Woods.
Ticking away the moments that make up a dull day. Fritter and waste the hours in an offhand way. Kicking around on a piece of ground in your hometown. Waiting for someone or something to show you the way. Does anybody realize where that's from? Recognize it? Yep. Pink Floyd, the name of the song is Time. We're here to talk about time today. So back in the day, Pink Floyd, late 60s, early 70s, they were into this drug called LSD. We're not going to talk about the drug side of LSD. We're going to talk about LSD meaning something different in forms of time management. So the new LSDs today we'll be talking about is list it, schedule it, and do it. Very easy to remember, LSD. So we all know what to-do lists are, right? How does to-do list work for people? Are you really good at to-do lists? Are they kind of confusing? Do you get stressed out? To-do lists have good things and bad things. They get pros and cons. The tough thing about a to-do list is you feel like maybe you let yourself down if you don't finish it, if you don't cross everything off. Well, I got news for you all. The things aren't going to stop coming through. We're going to keep having things to do every day. It's not going to ever stop. So this is a good strategy. So as far as listing it goes, have a master to-do list. Brain dump anything and everything you can think of. Big goals, little goals, buying a car, calling your mom. It doesn't matter what it is. Just write it down. And then you want to schedule it. So think of maybe a Saturday or a Sunday and look at your calendar. Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. Pull out your phone, smartphone, and look at your calendar app and schedule 2 things for each of those days. That's your to-do list for the week. 10 things. I think that's something we could probably accomplish, right? The trick with those 2 things, though, one small little rule, it's got to be one of the most important things you're going to do that day. So get 2 things done each day. That's 10 big things you could get done in a week. That's pretty awesome, right? 500 things in a year. That's a lot of accomplishing you can do in 1 year. So don't worry about the to-do list with a lot of things, just break it down. We want to stay focused when we do things, right? So when you go to do it, you get a phone call, let it go to voicemail. Work hard on that task you're working on at hand. If it takes you an hour to do it, focus 1 hour on that, then look at your email, or then look at your phone call. A great way to do this too is with emails and phone calls and texts, you can batch those throughout the day. Maybe you give yourself every 3 hours you can look at those instead of looking at them every 5 minutes. There's a great stat out there I learned at the conference I was at this morning for professional organizers. It was a regional conference down in Stanford. And one of the stats was we spend 25.5 hours a week going back and forth between apps and texting and phone. I was like, wow, I couldn't believe that. That was such a crazy stat for him. And to think about the amount of time we're wasting, right? So try to batch those strategies, batch those sections onto your schedule. And one of the more important things here is to batch in space in your schedule. Give yourself time between things you do. Go for a walk. Stare at a tree for like a minute. Just look at the bark. Look at all the different intricacies of it, and the branches, and the leaves, and the wind blowing. Just take it in. Be part of nature for a little bit. We have this great thing called breath that keeps us alive. Let's all breathe for a little bit. Here's a great little trick. It's called the 4-6-8 principle for breathing. So everybody just breathe in for 4 seconds, hold it, and then hold it for 6 seconds, and breathe out for 8. So let's all try that. How does that feel? You feel like you're part of the world now? It's not like you're not stressed out, it's bringing you back. Really important just to bring it all down and to realize what's going on in the world, because everything's going to keep coming at us every day. It's not going to stop. There's always going to be something to do. Every year is getting shorter. You never seem to find the time. Right? So going back to the Pink Floyd quotes, there's a lot of stuff going on with time. We want to be able to manage it. And the next time you take that trip, be sure to use LSD. List it, schedule it, do it. And I'll see you at the mountaintop.
See, my calendar is my whiteberry. For those of you folks that don't hear, this is 6 weeks of spreadsheets with the times of the day down this side and the dates on the top. And I do have a calendar at home that's black, it's this thick, and every weekend I sync my whiteberry with my blackberry. But anyway, it really is so important to manage your time. And the bottom line is the more you write down, the more organized you're going to be. So thanks so much. Our next speaker is Harvey Bailey. He is a relationship expert and coach, radio show host, author, speaker, and ordained reverend. And today he's going to be speaking on the power of visualization and how it ties into your success. Give it up for Harvey Bailey.
Remember when I was a young man, I was working a job. I was kind of a smart little kid. There was an older guy, probably the age I am now, and he told me something. He said, if you're really as good as you think you are, you don't have to show it. People will know. I met Jeff 4 or 5 years ago, and the minute I met Jeff, I knew he was something special. Just the way he shows up in the world lets you know. But then, when he opens his mouth, the things that he said, the questions that he asks, who he is, how authentic he is. Jeff is almost like a little child with his innocence. He shares himself with you with little regard. This is who I am. Most people don't understand how hard it is to be authentic. When I coach people, I talk about do, be, trust. Do the work. The work is working on you, always growing. Be authentic. You can't be authentic if you're not doing the work. Trust God. Because you're already perfect. You've just been sold a bill of goods by being told that you are imperfect. You're perfect in your imperfections. So when I had the opportunity to work with Jeff at Toastmasters, Parkville 300, back in Baltimore, where I'm from, it made me a better person. Jeff don't know this, but I benefited from being his mentor. You see, I had all this stuff in me that I needed someone to hear, to understand. Stuff that when I talk to people, they look at me puzzled. Or they feel I'm preaching. Or they just don't connect with it. Instead, Jeff was like a sponge. He soaked it up and he asked for more. But more importantly than that, Jeff didn't just take in this information, he utilized it. He put it into application. And one of the main things that I helped Jeff with was visualization. From early on, I was into visualization. All the way back from reading Shaki Gawain, then later taking the Silver Method, and several other courses. At my church, I did something called visioning, so I was good with visualization. And when I had the opportunity to work with Jeff, what I did with Jeff was help him to tap into the perfectness that is Jeff. The perfectness that exists in all of us. You see, because you are only limited in this world by your imagination, because the mind doesn't know the difference between real and imagined. And what you feed into the mind is what's going to manifest in the world. And if you're putting the right things in, almost like a computer, garbage in, garbage out, good stuff in, good stuff out. Jeff took the information I was giving him, and he went to the Toastmasters International Championship of World Speakers. So this is a young man who's destined to do great things. Why? Because of what he's put in to his mind. But also because he takes visualization seriously. And let me tell you, some of you may have heard of it, and some of you may have even tried visualization, and it didn't work. There's a reason it didn't work. You didn't go deep enough. And I don't have time to go into that, but you have to get into a deeper level of consciousness. Jeff is patient. Jeff is the kind of person who really gets into his studies. He learns and he applies. So for Jeff to go deep into his consciousness, where this information needed to be, was easy for him to do. And in so doing, well, I don't want to take up a whole lot of time, but I want to share this story. For me, visualization has gotten me a lot of places. It got me jobs, it got me a car, it got me money, it got me a lot of different things. For Jeff, I think my personal story, definitely, of Jeff's greatness with visualization would have been about 2 years ago. He was on his way to Canada. And Jeff got up this morning and the weather was horrible here. And so flights leaving were pretty much canceled. But Jeff decided to push through and go to the airport anyway. Maybe he can do something. Maybe he can reschedule his flight. And so when he gets there, he finds out